Oh, yeah, I was in here. I would honestly drop out if I could drop out. I'd say really fine.
That's
Well, you want me to say me about cross stage? Anyway, who made this?
I think it was Gavin Ward. He came down and said, "Do you want it?"
I think I go up. You probably not.
Gavin.
All right, guys. What I need from you today, right off the bat, if you would, if you don't already have your Chromebooks open, open those up, please. And if you could, take yourself to the class webpage. I don't know if I remember if I said this yesterday, but if you were in U.S. history last year, it's the same page. You just go into government now. If you didn't take U.S. history with me last year, you may have to go to Google and type in Mr. Klein's class. Should be the first or second hit. But again, make sure you're in the U.S. government. Don't go to AP government, or you're going to be in for a bit of a shock. Thank you. Uncle Sam? What?
Oh, look, Mr. Klein, that ain't you.
That ain't me. No, that ain't me.
I used to have it on my computer, but I don't know how to do it. Look, this is the new and improved Mr. Klein.
Wow.
Is it
That
U.S.
hurts.
government in
I'm just kidding, Klein. He got nothing on you.
I like this.
Oh, there's
All right,
Klein
we there?
and his family.
There we are. All right. So, what we're going to do today is, I don't ever like this to be the first day of class, but you do have to take some time and go over a few expectations. It's going to be a little shorter in here because we all know each other pretty well. I think you're all pretty aware of what you can expect of me and what I'm probably expecting out of you. But there are some things that we need to cover so that you are ready to go for the best chance of success in the class. And right off the bat, obviously, I'm not using Google Classroom. Those of you that have had me before, you already know that. I don't have anything against Google Classroom. It's just that when they started using it, I gave it a shot, messed around with it, and I just finally said, I don't think it does anything that I'm not already doing with my website. So, I'm not gonna take the time and just transfer everything over so I can be part of the school crowd. So, this is what I'll use. You don't have to worry about Classroom at all. Just bookmark this, and this is what I will push everything out to you from. So just a quick tour of the site. I'm not going to go through everything. I'll encourage you to take a look at a few different things, but there are some elements that I think you do need to know. And the first off is the calendar that I have up here. Now, last year, I used to have that as a link, kind of like this. And you had to click on it to open it up. So I've changed it up to where all you have to do is go to the website, and it will bring that up. And it's updated at this point all the way into February. But I'm working ahead, trying to get things planned. I'd rather spend my time here at school working with you guys than trying to craft lesson plans. So I tend to work pretty far ahead. And I can tell you right now that schedule is pretty tight. I don't envision there being a whole lot of changes to this. I've got a lot to cover within a semester. And, let's be honest, it's not even a full semester, right? You guys have a week off at spring break. You have a week, basically, for senior trip. And then we get into May, and you are either consumed with senior stuff or you're just already done. Senioritis took hold in you about 6 years ago. All right, and it's grown in magnitude since then. Hannah, what do you think?
Can I have the paper?
Erica, would you mind handing one of those papers? It should say crash course on it. Yeah, no?
Yeah.
All right, so the reason why I want to make sure that you guys take a look at this is because I always get that question from students when they come in after they've missed a day, Mr. Klein, what did I miss? My first response to you is going to be, have you looked at the calendar? That's why it's on there, so that you never should have a question what you missed. You should never have a question about due dates. You should never have a question about what's coming up. And I think that's key for you guys. All right, I know how busy you are. You guys have jobs. You guys have sports. Some of you have both. You have other things going on at home, and you need to plan. All right, you need to plan. So let this be your accountability checker, if you will, to keep you on pace and know what's coming up. You'll notice as you go through it, if you have a chance, I have due dates listed there. those are going to be hard and fast. All right, the only time that I ever change a due date is if I think that I haven't given you a fair amount of time.
Oh, yeah.
They're in the trays. They're sticking out. Okay. If I feel like, just based off of what we're doing in class, that I haven't given you enough time, then I'll change the due date, and I don't have a problem with that. But otherwise, I think they're pretty fairly set, and I'm going to stick to them. So please be aware of that. Sometimes I'll throw a clip. If I have like a link to a video clip that we're going to use, I usually will include that mostly for students who are absent, so that you are able to still view that clip. The other big tool that I have if you are absent, and some of you may remember that I used this last year, is that I do live stream most of my classes. In fact, we're live streaming now. Right, if you want to say hi to the webcam in the back. There we go. Yeah, it won't be able to see you because I've got it projecting the screen, but it can hear you. So be aware of that, folks sitting in the back, that it's picking up everything you say. Wow. Great. All right. But if you are absent, you can chime in. So it's usually like the middle of the day is when I record. So more often than not, it will be your class that will be streamed. But you could actually chime in if you're sick, if you're home sitting in bed. You chime in and you can listen or watch. But if you've been absent and you need to go back and watch it, or if you need it for review, then you can go back and you can take a look at that. There's all sorts of tools built in here to help you out for review and if you are absent. Right? There really is no excuse for folks to not know what's going on. All right, with that said, we scroll down here a little bit, and I will point out that I did post a syllabus for the course. I'm not even going to open it. If you want to look through it at some point, you can. I know that it says that it was posted in 2015. That's when I put the link on there. Obviously, I go through and I update it as we go every year, every semester. But I mean, it's boilerplate stuff. Attendance policy, my stance on cheating, the grading scale, all of that. But I really feel like at this point in your career, you ought to probably know all that stuff. Nothing surprising there. The two things, though, that I do want to talk about in this box are community service and current events. Okay, those are two big grades, and those are two grades that take us all the way through the entire semester. So these are things that you need to be mindful of. And I want to start with the community service first. Right? How many of you worked the November election? Raise your hand. Those folks with your hands raised, you can just tune out for a second because you have already got all the points. In fact, you've got all the points plus extra. You're done. Okay.
Go me.
Yeah, there you go. All right, for the rest of you, please remember that this is a 100-point grade that goes in at the end of the second semester, at the end of the 9 weeks in May. So it will not in any way, shape, or form affect your first 9 weeks, only your second 9 weeks. It is not a pass or fail grade. If you do 8 hours out of 10, then you get an 80%, 9, 90, and so on. Okay. How do you get the community service? What is allowed as community service? Those are the questions I usually get. I mean, I'm pretty lenient, all right? I'm not looking for this to be a grade killer for anybody. What I do ask is that, number one, it needs to be work that you have done during this school year. So August 2018 to present is acceptable. I accept NHS hours. I accept SIA hours. I mean, those are the two big ones. There is a chance, and I'm not going to go so far as to guarantee it, but we will be having city elections in May. There will be Anderson elections. There will be Elwood elections. There won't be anything in Frankton. But, they are going to have to open up voting precincts for that. So if that is something that is made available to us, then some of you may be able to get your hours in that way. But I don't want to guarantee it. They may not come to us. They may not offer it to us. And if that's the case and you decided, well, I'll just wait till May and do that, and it doesn't work out, you're going to be in a tough spot. So, if I were you, I would try to take advantage of hours as often as they're made available to you. Oftentimes I'll have students that will come to me and ask, hey, is this acceptable for community service? And more often than not, I'm going to say yes. All right, I can tell you right off the bat, if you're doing something and getting paid for it, it's a no. But if it's something that is a genuine help to a person or to the community at large, I'm probably going to say yes. But just come on in, talk to me about it, and we'll get it figured. One way that I might suggest, and this is only available to second semester students, so there you go. Got myself. There we go. All right. Is this option right here? Have any of you ever paged before down at the State House? Kristen, yeah? It was a great experience, wasn't it? Okay. Yeah. I've done it before. It's pretty, I think, boring. You're not doing anything wild and crazy, I don't think. But.
Well, I did get it wrong.
Yeah. So you're like, most students when they go, they have to stuff mail or, something boring. But if you're looking for hours, it's a nice, easy way to get a ton of your hours. Usually it ends up being about 7 or 8 of your 10 hours. It is an excused absence from school. What you'll do is you'll go down to the State House on a given day. The reason why it's only available for second semester is that our legislature is a part-time legislature. So it generally only meets from January to March. So keep that in mind if you're thinking of taking advantage of this opportunity. You will most likely be placed with Representative Austin or Representative Wright, Molly Wright, or Senator Lannon, who is the state senator for this region. And I mean, it's nothing exciting. It's nothing wild. I don't think you're going to go down there and just have this amazing time. But it is a neat opportunity for you to see up close how the legislature works, how the government works. Usually, if it's Terry or Melanie, they'll give you a couple of jobs to do. It can be neat. I haven't had students come back and complain much about it. But that's something that I might suggest for you if you don't want to just put all your chips on that election being available. Right? So if you're interested, just click on that. If you have any issues with the sign up, let me know. But if you're thinking about doing that, I would probably consider signing up sooner rather than later if you want to take advantage. Okay. So what do you do when you're done with the hours? All you got to do is print one of these off. It'll print off with 2 slips. You only need one. Just give the other one to a classmate or something. It's pretty simple. Your name. When did you do the service? What did you do? I usually like to have a name there. Somebody I could reach out to. Not that I don't trust you guys, but I've been burnt a couple times. So if I think there's anything sketchy going on, I like to have somebody I could just check with real quick. And that's it. Just turn it in to me. Let me know how many hours you worked. And that's all it takes. If you work the election in November, you don't have to do a single thing. All right, I've got a list of everybody who worked. You're good to go. All right, so what questions do you have on community service? Yeah. Is that an SIA thing?
Through Mr. Pruitt and SIA, but
yeah, let me talk to him.
There was like a little paper in there that said it would, but I want to check.
Let me talk to him real quick and just kind of get a better sense of everything that goes on with that. It'll probably be fine. Let me check with him first. Any other questions on community service? All right. The other one is current events, and that one I might actually have you click on. Go ahead and open up that sheet real quick. It's going to ask you to make a copy of it. All right. So with current events, okay, the purpose of this, I think it's probably pretty self-explanatory. I want you to know what's going on within your government. And I can assure you that, especially with the current structure of our government, there will never be any trouble for anyone to find something going on with our government. In fact, if anything, you'll have to start selecting which articles I want to use, not where are the articles. So this is what's going to come up when you open that up. And you're going to turn a current event assignment in 8 times over the course of the 9 weeks. Back on the main page of the website, there are the due dates for every single current event for the entire semester, barring some sort of snowstorm that throws off our schedule all sorts, I mean, those are going to be the due dates. I am not going to change those. I have already taken into account when the 9 weeks ends, when your senior trip is, when spring break is. I've already looked at all of that, and these are the due dates. So don't think, hey, okay, I'm sure Mr. Klein will probably change this. No, I'm sticking with those, barring some big snow issue. Okay? So each time you turn this in, first one is due on the 25th. What do I expect to see? You are going to fill out one of these forms for each article that you are going to be looking at. And each of these due dates for a chance at full credit requires 4 articles to be read. These can be newspaper articles. They could be magazine articles, but I'm guessing that you're going to primarily lean on newspapers. And back on the main webpage, I've got a link to several different good newspapers that you could use. So you're going to fill one of these out for each of those articles. When you turn this in on the 25th, it's your first due date, there should be at minimum 4 of these sheets getting turned in. And all you have to do is share it with me. You don't have to print a single thing. So if it were me, this is just if it were me, I would probably highlight everything, go up to edit, select all, copy, and I'd paste it 3 times. There you go. You've got your blank sheet. For each of these, you're going to give me your name, the date of the summary. When did you do that? Why I have you do that is because I will have some students who will turn in these in advance. I had a student last semester who turned in like current event 2, 3, and 4 all at the same time. And so by you giving me the date in which you did this summary, it helps to make sure that I give you credit for each of those, and they all don't just run together. And if you do one today, get today's date. Give me some information on the article. Headline, what date was the article written? That's pretty key. Right? I will not accept an article that is older than 6 months old. Last year, I had a student who gave me an article that was from 2012. Right? It's great, but I think that defeats the purpose of current events. Okay, so nothing older than 6 months. What newspaper did you get it from, and who wrote the article? Okay, that should be pretty quick stuff. The summary, I think a paragraph will suffice. Please don't rewrite the article. Please don't feel like you need to give me a book. All right, I've got it in the bold here. Make it clear that you have actually read the article. If you do that, we're solid. Please do not do what other students have tried to do. They highlight the first paragraph of the article and then they paste it there. All right, it's pretty clear the difference between a high school senior and a professional newspaper reporter and what they've written. All right, so you need to summarize it in your own words. What is the gist of the article? Last thing, this is where students often miss points. Go up to the top, copy the link to the article and paste it down there. I should be able to click on it and go right to the article that you are using. Okay. Brady, you had a question?
Yeah, does it have to be a newspaper?
I mean, newspaper or magazine. Yeah, it needs to be newspaper or magazine. It also needs to have something to do with American or Indiana state government. Okay, you know, don't, the Oscars are coming up here in a couple weeks. Don't tell me who won Best Picture. Okay, that's great, but that doesn't have anything to do with American government. So look for things that, you know, that Congress is doing. You know, the president sometimes makes news. You know? Okay. But there should be plenty of things that you can find that you can talk about in these articles. Now, 20 points every time you turn it in. Maybe that doesn't sound like many points, but it's 80 points for 9 weeks. Also, if you're looking for extra credit, this is where you get it. I don't just throw extra credit out there. I'm a bit of a stickler with extra credit. This is where you get it. 4 of them would get you a chance at 20 out of 20. But each time you turn these in, So 8 different times you can do 2 extra credit articles. That's 3 points each. So 6 points of extra credit every time you turn these in. That is 24 points of extra credit every 9 weeks. That is 48 points of extra credit for the semester. So last semester I had some folks who got over 100% for the 9 weeks. How did they do it? They did every single extra credit op that they could get. Sometimes this is a difference maker between an F and a D and a C. If you're looking for extra credit, I'm going to point you to this. If you come up and ask me in May, Mr. Klein, I'm struggling, I need extra credit, I'm going to point you to this. Okay? So just remember that that's where you can get it. All right, questions on current events? Now, the first one I try to be kind of lenient on until you get used to it. I think after you do one of them, you'll start to crank them up pretty fast. But, you know, I give an extra week for the first one. And I also try to build in a day where you can just come into class and just work on this. And a lot of times at that point, all the students will come up and just say, hey, am I doing this right? And I'm perfectly fine with looking that over and giving you the thumbs up, thumbs down, or a suggestion or something like that to help you get going. I mean, I think they're pretty straightforward. And look, you know, this is not meant to be a grade killer. If anything, these are meant to be grade boosters. And it seems like, you know, listen, this class is set up for you to pass with a C. All right, I have students that get A's and B's. I have lots of students that get A's and B's. They earn those. But it seems like every now and then I get, you know, it seems like, it's not every now and then. Every semester I have students who flunk. And the reason why is the same reason why I have students flunk any other class that I teach. And what is that? They get zeros, man. You know, you got zeros. You don't turn stuff in, you know, maybe 1 0 is not going to kill you. But if you have multiple zeros, I can probably guarantee that you'll flunk the course. You know, and you got to have this class to graduate. So turn your stuff in. If you're looking for some extra credit just to make you feel better, here's how to do it. It's not a class that's difficult to pass, but if you're not going to do anything, don't come to me in May and sing a song to me and expect me to have some magic formula. I'm going to say, hey, if you got a time machine, go back and do your work. So that's the secret. That's the secret to success in this class, is doing your work. Questions, though, on this before we move on? All right. One more thing I want to mention, and then I'm going to give you guys some time to get a couple things done here. Heading back to the main website, right up above the due dates there, right here, those are the links to the newspapers. I think those are all pretty solid newspapers. Different points of view within the newspapers. And, of course, I do have the Herald Bulletin represented here. Most people won't use that. Okay, the last thing I want to mention is this right here. In the past, you know, I'm always looking for ways that I can get students to think, to talk, you know, to communicate ideas or opinions. And, you know, we don't always have time to do that in here. And so what I used to do is that I used to have my own version of a student blog, and I would have students respond to things in that blog. And it just didn't work. You know, I'm not afraid to say I tried something, it didn't work. I'm gonna try something else. So it didn't work. I'm gonna try something else. Because I really do think it's important that you guys have some experience communicating in a digital format, not just within class. You guys know just as well, if not better than I do, people communicate differently when they don't have to look somebody in the eye. When they can post something on Facebook or on Twitter, they tend to run their mouth a little bit more than they would if they had to look at somebody in the face. The reality, though, is, especially for those of you that are thinking of going to 2- or 4-year university, is that the digital communication is becoming much more of the norm rather than the exception. It was doing that when I was in school, And now I have students that come back all the time and they say, gosh, I can't tell you how many classes I took where we didn't meet face-to-face very much. We had to do discussion boards. We had to respond digitally. And that's a whole different bag of beans there, folks. All right? So that's what these weeklies are all about. All right, I hesitate to say that they're like your English journals because I feel like I have a lot of people that don't enjoy doing that. All right, instead of having, like 3 or 4 a week, you've got 1 prompt a week. Hence the term weekly. All right, they'll always be posted here on the class webpage on Mondays, and they'll always be due on the following Friday. Or if we had a short week or something, they might be due on Thursday, but they'll be due at the end. Okay, you can go ahead and click on it if you want. This is how all of them will look. All right, it'll have your weekly number on there. It'll have the instructions. All right, there are some instructions up there regarding word count. There are some reminders to you that I am taking into account spelling, grammar. So if I were you, I would consider composing this in a Google Doc, run it through spell check, then copy and paste it into the form. You don't have to worry about giving your name. I've already got it set up to automatically collect that. And then you'll have your prompt here. Usually, it's a prompt that is tied to what we're talking about in class. For our first week here, though, it's simply asking you, to consider the fact that you're required by law to be in this class. All right, some of you, I think, might have signed up for it just because. But the rest of you, it doesn't really matter. You have to be here. So it's simply asking you, why do you think that requirement exists? Do you agree with it being a required class? Feel free to be honest with me, okay? If you feel like you being here is crap and you don't want to do it, you shouldn't have to take this class, tell me that. All right? I'm not going to have my feelings hurt by it. And now if you put, this class, me having to take this class is crap and that's because the teacher is awful, that'll hurt a little. It'll sting. But you can be honest. The key, though, is, and I'm going to tell you right now, this is where students are going to miss points, is that if your opinion is that you shouldn't have to take this class, you need to justify that opinion. That's going to be a big word for this class. Justify. Don't just say, I think we shouldn't have to take it, put a period, and then move on. Tell me why you shouldn't have to take the class. And give me something more than because Grandpa told me so. I've gone to that several times, but I can't tell you how many times people will run their mouth and express an opinion, and then when they are asked why they think that way, they'll say, oh, no. Or, Dad told me so. I don't have anything wrong with Dad. I don't have anything against Grandpa. I think most of us, when we start out, our family is a big influence on our opinions, and that's perfectly normal. I'm saying you're not just starting out. I'm saying you're young adults. And I'm saying I don't want you to be part of the problem that we have as a country. And that is that we don't have any backing. We don't have any spine, any backbone to our thoughts. Right? So justify your opinion. And that's why I give you a week. I don't think this is something you just sit down and you answer it in a minute. I think you're going to have to maybe think about this a little bit. Give me that justification to your response. Okay? But put your answer there, hit submit, you'll be done. That's all there is to it. And I'm the only one who's going to read these, so I would keep that in mind. But like I said, be honest. Just give me that justification. Any questions on the weeklies? Yes, sir. Good at the end of the week. Assuming that we have a 5-day week, as long as I have it by the end of the school day on Friday. Yeah, it's generally every 2 weeks now. Sometimes I might make a slight adjustment for that. Like this first one, you get basically 3 weeks. If we have something like the senior trip that maybe throws a monkey wrench into it, you might get some extra time there. It's generally every 2 weeks. Yeah, these are good questions. What other questions? Yeah, Jaden. Yeah, 4 of the separate turn-ins.
Yeah.
Now, just understand that if you're just doing the full credit, you're not doing the extra credit articles, you're talking about 16 articles. Yeah, that's fine. I'm just saying, just kind of keep that in mind, if you're trying to gauge.
So we're doing
2 extra credit if you want. And you can do 2 per tournament. So there's a lot of extra credit. Yeah. I had students, if you've got friends who took it first semester, I think when it comes to current events, they'd probably tell you, number 1, Erica, you had a first semester.
Yeah.
Current events can help you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they can help you. All right, and I think it's a pretty easy way to get extra credit. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of extra credit. I don't get a lot of it. So if you're one of those students who just likes having extra credit or feels like you might need it at some point, there you go. Yeah, these are all good questions. What other questions did you have? Yeah, what other questions do you have about? I mean, it can be about anything that I've talked about today. Just I want to make sure we're clear on the expectations. We're good. So if I were you, you've got about 10 minutes here, maybe a little less. If you want to go ahead and give some thought to that weekly, take advantage of the time. Tomorrow, we're going to actually get into the meat of our first unit. We're going to be talking about voters and why we suck at it. What influences the way that we vote, or if you know people, or if you're one of those people who thinks I'm never going to vote, you're still part of the discussion. So what influenced that decision? That's what we'll be looking at tomorrow. Other than that, I'm good. That's all I got for today. The rest of the time is yours. Yeah, and that also reminds me, I'm assuming that every one of you did the day of service in November. That counts. That's all this year. Maybe 2-3 hours, but it's 2-3 hours. Not something to stress over unless you wait till night. Yeah. We'll get into that. Yeah, that's part of our discussion. I have my thoughts, but I want you to have your own. I think we have a pretty serious case of that. I think serious case of laziness. I think that there's a general feeling that vote doesn't count, especially when you're not being received. I think that's part of it. I think we like to complain. Well, and you know what? My point, I went on a big soapbox. I got on the soapbox. One point wasn't it in the end, I got on the soapbox. Yeah, I got the soapbox. In the election before, I had all these people that outside school. I said, you know what? If you don't like either of them, then don't vote for the president. But go and vote for the president. Just the president's on the news. As far as the everyday impact of your life, really, Congress, state legislature, your government, that's where the everyday impact comes in. And they're all on the ballot too. Go in and vote for them. Town board, your school board, they're all on that same ballot. Don't vote for them. Just leave that one part.
I didn't get a sticker.
Yeah.
I didn't want a sticker.
What's that? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get one.
Some lady brought us.
Wasn't I? I was at Jada. I was at your. Yeah, I was at your. I didn't get a sticker.
Okay, so it's, sometimes when we have the line that we have to play with, is, community service is something that you're doing, just so you know. If you get any kind of a grade or any kind of hours, probably would. But if it's something that you just, you're doing a little extra because you volunteer, then I would.
You have OT. How many do you need?
Oh, yeah, I do.
I only have 58 ones.
Now that hour after, that's just Tristan Lawson's time, that's okay. That's okay. Just if you have somebody like supervisor that will vouch for it, just have them sign it, so everyone goes to the bottom of this. Better hit it. Yes.
I'm gonna do my this right.
Sure.
I'm gonna finish.
Just do your best.
Just do your best. I'll take up.
Oh.
By the way, if you had big plans to watch something on primetime TV tonight, those are not going to happen. President Trump will be taking your primetime TV space tonight. He's giving a sales pitch on the wall. So. Man, they got destroyed. They got taken to the woodshed. Grandpa gave a spanking. Yeah. Why? I stopped carrying after Notre Dame. Speaking of woodshed. Yeah. No, I can't promise you. Where did you work last time? I can't remember.
Just carrying him to show.
Now, did you hear the drama of this? She showed up. She did everything she was supposed to do. She showed up to her polling place. She had gone to the training. She did everything she was supposed to do. She showed up where she was supposed to work.
Is everybody
And lost this one took her job.
Oh, no, that's just person.
And so as I was pulling out of my driveway that morning, I was getting all this.
We need everybody to leave. Well, our Democrats, like, they might show up and like find it.
Hey, Kyla Brown's inspector didn't show up. Yeah, Kyla's. Somebody at that precinct shot me at the end at like 9. And they're like, hey, when was our inspector supposed to be here? 3 hours ago. And so that's when I called up the Republican chair and I was like, is there an inspector at this precinct? Because it's 9 o'clock and I haven't been there. So the inspector has the key to like.
I didn't do that.
It was something else. Anyway, so my thought is that like Kyla and Lauren Pickering, they're all just waiting outside for 3 hours. Luckily, it was unlocked. And Kyla just took the head. She just did her job. She did the job already. So she ended up getting paid extra. Anyway, back to Desiree. So she got yelled at screen inside. We finally got it all figured out. Desiree didn't get her job, but she got another job. So it was all good. So anyway, this weekend, 2 months later, I get an email from the inspector.
Oh my God.
And it's like, he sent it to me and Mr. Ranger. He's
Oh,
like, apparently there are rumors being spread about what happened
And none
on
of
the
them
night she died. I'd like to dispel those
Oh, I know it's what it
once
is.
and for all. And I responded back and I
I
said,
mean, if you
first
have a
off,
better team.
hello 2 months ago. And I said, second, I don't know what rumors you're talking about, but I can guarantee you that we got over that 2 months and 22 hours ago. And so number 3, I expressed my concerns to the people that needed to hear it, taken care
Oh,
of,
is that
move on.
where all this?
Yeah. And so he
Well, first of all, you spelled my name wrong.
he's like, I don't mean to imply you. I'm like, well, then don't send me an email and say that you're,
How do I spell it? MUAPIN? That wasn't that.
So, and the funny thing is this woman had no job there. She had no business being there. She just walked in and just started screaming at Desiree. She had to be escorted out of
I
the
think it
precinct.
was.
No. It was some woman who I think thought she was a big bad.
I got the alarm. What's for lunch? I don't know. I brought my own lunch.
You know what I brought for lunch? Because I don't have.
Definitely missed it. I'm over it. They're all. I do like that. I feel like they're strong.
Like, Aubrey, what did you
Even a
say?
sip.
It's funny. Like, as soon as I read it, I thought that was all.
Yeah, funny.
The 360 down.
You had a better one in high school. You had a better one.
He's just a different. He's on a different level.
And
He's like Charles Barkley, but.
Yeah.
I always keep my phone on that.
Yeah, because it literally goes down so fast.
My system looks like this, but my mom had Salary.
Oh, I'm about to man,
I think I know what it is, man. I know, a lot of people don't do
Did
it.
you remember that?
Jay, were you part of that pizza ordering group?
It's a,
So that was the other thing you brought up.
it really was.
Is that at his precinct, he said,
He's
you know,
always that guy.
there's also rumors going that I didn't feed just the workers.
Yeah.
I fed the workers, but some of them didn't like what I fed them, so some of them ordered pizza.
And then he'll go like,
That's why I said,
he'll literally send it down.
did they pay for
And
it?
then 5 seconds
Did they
later,
clear
where's it
it?
at? You took it, you took
The
it.
answer is yes. I don't want to hear about
Who
it.
has
I don't care.
No, I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
Now, if you want to talk about somebody's votes got canceled, now let's talk. But I don't care.
Did I have a party at my house?
I
I made it!
I can't help it.
Somebody sign me!
I had a,
better be getting salsa.
I had a hard hearing.
I was there.
I don't say that.
Yeah. A hard hearing.
Actually,
Where were you at again?
Say it!
Weirdest day.
Say it!
Yes, all.
Miss you.
I'm kind of, you know, sometimes you patronize too much of this stuff. It's not gonna let me. I'm worried that Aubrey's going to talk like that so much that she's going to get stuck.
Now there's a couple of words that are stuck that I can't get back. Squidgy, ocean. I'm trying to think of what else. What are some other words that I can't
You're going
say?
to go in for this big job interview.
But,
I say switchy.
but,
Bud.
Oh, say, are we good to go, Mr.
but,
Oh, three?
that's street is dog. It's but. You're saying
It's good. It looks good on the resume.
It's fun.
So far away.
My grandma knows Terry.
Just-
It's actually last year.
Just
Terry
big
said,
catch on
my grandma
accent.
emailed for it. And I was like,
And we're so like big on
had something going on.
That's what I'm
Like,
saying.
year before last.
Water
actually,
is torch.
She said,
not
say
the original.
and down to the next day, check in. And then I sent you up to my office. I was up there and I helped her do stuff.
That's just nice. I went, the one time I did it, I was in high school. The guy was just, like I should have anybody solved it.
Really?
Well, they're arguing over the big bills. So I just said, good, and I walked and I went to the secretary's desk, he said, you know, I do something. They let me run messages all, you know, so that became a good day for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't thanks to my rep.
Yeah.
Terry's great. She's
Yeah, and then year before that, Terry was busy that whole day. So they were literally like, guys, I know it's a little boring, so just get down to the mail room and we're gonna pass out everybody's mail.
something, I guess, you know?
And we went all over the state house, and then last year before that, they had a scavenger hunt for us throughout the whole state house building.
Well, that's nice. Okay, well, sounds maybe they've got a better program here.
Yeah, it's better than what-
That's good. That's good. That's good. But,